Hello, church. We are here to give you a quick update as to the recent mission trip that we took to Ysleta Lutheran Mission in El Paso, Texas. It was a wonderful trip. We learned a ton. We had a great experience down there, and now we want to share some of the things that we did and some of the things that we saw down in El Paso and actually in Juarez, Mexico with you, members of Holy Trinity Lutheran Church. I'm actually going to hear with John Grunow, who went along and was the leader of our mission trip for this particular year, and John's going to kind of kick it off by explaining some of the preparation that we went through.
So the preparation that we do is really fairly extensive. We spend 6 months of working together and learning together, studying the Bible together. And the idea is that we want to really have good spiritual unity and spiritual growth for ourselves. And then out of that flows the different ways to present the gospel. This year we had 5 different lessons that we had to prepare. That's 5 lessons plus a skit, plus a craft, plus a snack. Most of the time we typically have just one lesson that we do. This year we did 5 separate lessons. But the amazing thing is how unique each one of those was developed and how well they told the story that we were trying to tell. And we had great expectations. We anticipated that we would have 100 kids.
Yeah, one of the preparation elements that we had was choosing actually when we were going to go down to Ysleta, and we chose a week that actually would have been fall break, or actually was fall break for the kids down there. And so we were under the impression that it was just going to be a madhouse with kids everywhere, and it didn't quite turn out that way, but God a lot of times has a tendency to take what we have as best laid plans and show us that He has something totally different and something even more incredible in mind. So with that, we wanted to kind of run you through the week that we had. On Sunday, we actually all attended San Pablo Lutheran Church, which is located on the Ysleta Lutheran Mission campus. This actually is led by Pastor Carl Heimer, who has served the El Paso community as the leader of the Ysleta Lutheran Mission for almost 40 years. I believe he said this coming, I think March is his 40th anniversary down there. Now, it was really neat because the entire service was bilingual. So they would do a small section in English and a small section in Spanish, and then flip it and go Spanish and English. So it was it was really amazing to be able to worship with fellow Christians in a bilingual service. And that's something that really, I think, was a great addition to this particular one, because I know in the past we've done a lot of Spanish language worship.
That's correct. So typically we worship in Spanish, and it's an interesting way of doing it, but you don't always understand what is actually happening.
Yeah. And after our worship, we were able to go and kind of get a little bit of a lay of the land for the Ysleta campus, figuring out where exactly we're going to be doing the VBS, some of the different projects that we're going to be doing around the campus, because our time frame was we were planning VBS for about a 2-hour block in the morning, complete with crafts and snacks and activities. And then in the afternoon, we were going to do some cleanup on the Ysleta campus, because they have so many people that they're sending out to do work outside of the campus that unfortunately sometimes some of the stuff on the campus tends to get missed. And so we thought that could be a really good way that we serve them as well as serving the people of the Ysleta Lutheran Mission. Monday actually was our first day of VBS. Everything went absolutely perfectly. The day was actually based off of Joshua, the idea of be strong and courageous, which was kind of our entire focus for the entire week. And so what happened was we started with outdoor games and bubbles, and we had sidewalk chalk and all sorts of neat things, and had then our Bible lesson. But we had 2 children show up, which when we were expecting 100 was a little bit of a letdown, but the cool thing about it is the 2 girls, their mom Carla works at the mission. The girls were absolutely amazing. They were so much fun to have around. They were sweet, sweet kids, and they were getting a whole lot of time and a whole lot of attention purely devoted to them. So they kind of had their very own little VBS for the first day, actually the first 2 days. But so one of the neat things about that is even though we had a small group, we were actually able then to get a lot more stuff done on the campus than we probably would have if we would have had a large group showing up. So we actually had all of this energy and time that we were able to devote toward the girls, and then all of that time afterward we were able to take and put it into our cleanup efforts on the Ysleta campus. So Tuesday morning, we talked about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and it was a really neat presentation, and we had everything ready to go. And again, we had just the two girls show up. And so what we ended up doing is we did everything like we would have even if we had 100 kids there. So we ended up having the VBS lesson and the craft and the games, and we learned the proper way to eat Takis snacks, which none of us actually knew until we were informed by one of the girls. So we were able to have a whole lot of fun with them, and then we were able to go out and to do some of these projects. One of them actually included cleaning up the library that they're currently building on campus and going through just boxes upon boxes of books that have been donated and have been really kind of collecting dust for probably a few years. It was a really neat experience, and we were able to find just massive amounts of books that they honestly, in some cases, didn't realize that they even had, and try to help them build up this library that then they can use as a research reference for some of the pastors who serve not only the El Paso community, but also those who serve it down in Juarez as well. As John and I were kind of cleaning over by one of the houses on the Isleta campus, I got a phone call from Luz and Carla, two of the ladies who work in the office of the mission, and asking us to come in and talk. And John and I weren't entirely sure what this whole conversation was going to be about, but when we came in, they presented us with an idea. Their idea was, since we had had such low turnout in El Paso, to turn and to go into Juarez, and to, instead of trying to do the VBS in the small scale, to go to Anapra, which is actually the former city dump of Juarez, Mexico. And so our concept is that we were going to take everything we were planning to do at Isleta and just transport it across the border in the morning and set up at Santa Biblia Lutheran Church in Anapra. And so that's how we led into Wednesday.
And that was so exciting. I can't tell you how excited we were to realize that we had an opportunity to go to a place that truly was a mission effort. And so when we went to Anapra, they actually have their worship service on Wednesdays, and our presentation turned out to be their worship service. But on Wednesdays they bring in food, so they have more people than usual, and it's really a fun experience. But Santa Biblia Church is, as Pastor Bangert had mentioned, is built on a landfill in Anapra, and it overlooks the hills and the mountains of South Texas, and it's really a very beautiful place. They have an overhang that serves as their roof, but they have no building structure anymore since their old one had fallen down. And essentially they worship outside. So we did our games with bubbles and, well, we didn't use chalk because there's no sidewalk. It's all dirt. But with bubbles and balloons and balls, and played with the children before the beginning of the service. And we went through our VBS and did lots of singing, and the children really keyed in on the motions. We discovered that they really liked the motions that we had with each of the songs, and they watched that very carefully. And Shannon Elliott seemed to be the magnet for that, because he would stand in front of our group and the kids would just glue their eyes on him while he was doing the motions and teaching the songs.
And one of the neat things too about this location where we were at is it's a very family atmosphere. And so when we pulled up, we were already shocked by the amount of people waiting for us on Wednesday. There were probably 75, 80 people waiting, and then another bus showed up and another van showed up. And so it was just a massive amount of people that all just suddenly started appearing, even from just walking up, like parents walking their kids up, releasing them, and then the kids come running in, and grandmas and grandpas. And so it was very much of a multi-generational atmosphere that we found as well, which was really neat. And we found very quickly that the adults jumped in on the games and the crafts and the singing just as much as the kids. We realized at one point we might be running low on crafts because all of the adults were taking a craft and doing it, as well as the kids, helping out not only their grandkids and maybe nieces and nephews, but also doing one for themselves too, which was really fun. And it was something that we weren't necessarily anticipating, but it was a really cool discovery to make. Thursday, we actually started off with a normal Bible study. And one of the things that we do is we have a Bible study every single morning. before we head out to whatever project or VBS. But this time we had something a little bit different. This is the first year, if I'm not mistaken, that a pastor's gone along, and so we actually started out with Holy Communion, which was really neat because as a group we were able to gather around the body and blood of Christ and to partake in Holy Communion before heading off to Santa Biblia. And something that we had been kind of made aware of the day before, but came to full fruition on Thursday, was that there was going to be an emergency baptism. A little girl who had suffered a fall was going to be baptized at Santa Biblia. We were able to take the baptismal font along with us, and it was really remarkable. We were able to stand and watch this little girl become a part of the family of God in the same baptismal font that had been donated by a Minnesota church after it closed and had been built in 1894. Just absolutely incredible. Just a remarkable experience for all of us. So we're able to see not only have the Lord Jesus Christ come to us in his very body and blood in Holy Communion, but then also see a little girl be brought into the family through the waters of holy baptism. And not only that, the actual idea or the topic that we centered around for this particular day was actually the Lord's crucifixion, which I think carried a little bit more weight than normal because with all of the things going on and having seen the baptism, and also what you have to remember is this area is a mountainous area with a lot of dirt, a desert looking area. So it really, I think, drove home the point as to not only what Christ did for us, but I think in a way it kind of almost transported people to thinking about what this would have actually kind of looked like. It was a really neat experience for a lot of us.
Yeah, for all of us. And Thursdays, we typically try to share the direct gospel message. That is Jesus and his last week on earth and his crucifixion and the resurrection. And like Pastor Bangert said, it was just an amazing display of what it was like. And as we acted out the different parts of it, you could tell how each of us who were part of the story and acting it out, how we were engaged, but the people who were watching were also very engaged, and you could hear when they were nailing Jesus to the cross, you could hear gasps in the crowd from some of the kids and from some of the adults, and that it really had an emotional impact when you see it played out in that particular scene.
It was. Even now, it's really hard to kind of put into words all of the things that we saw. Thursday really, I know for me, was very much of a high point in just all of the things that were going on, all of the things that happened. And getting to tell people about Jesus and what he did for us is, I mean, there's nothing cooler than that. It's really remarkable. And like I said, it's been a few weeks and it's still hard to really put into words what we saw and what we're able to do on Thursday.
And that's why we go, is because it's an opportunity to share with people the love of God.
Yeah, and not only to share it with the people, but also to have it shared with us as well. And
so true.
The kids were very much eager to join in and to celebrate the fact that we were there to be with them and to share these stories with them. And they were eager participants in all the different activities, all the different games. It was just an awesome day all the way around. And then, of course, that isn't even the end of it. We have Friday yet. And it's like after this high point of Thursday and Friday getting to finish up, where we talked about Paul and Silas and this story where you have two men who are sitting in the depths of a prison, still making noise and singing loudly to God and singing Jesus praises as they're sitting in a place of just unimaginable horror. And it was a neat way to end, because one of the things that ended up happening, and we had, since we were in Santa Biblia, we actually had to translate everything from English into Spanish. And so our translator, Luz, who had gone along, was actually doing a lifetime translation. So as we would say it in English, Luz was translating into Spanish for the crowd. One of the problems with that we found out is that if we get lost on our English script, we don't always know where they're at in the Spanish script. And so what happened was our two men who were in prison, in this case Paul and Silas, which happened to be John and Shannon, were sitting in prison and lost their place. And so the guard, who happened to be me, was supposed to be asleep, got an extra long nap because no one had any clue where we were until Luz realized how far off we were and where we were supposed to be at and started signaling us and had the kids do a few different aftershocks for the earthquake that woke up the jailer and released Paul and Silas. And so it was kind of a neat, it was definitely not planned, but it was a kind of a cool little way because the kids were able to stand up and scream and shout and scare me, the jailer, awake. And so that was kind of a neat experience, and also shows, to be honest, you can have the best laid plans on all of these things. You can have it that you can go in thinking that you have it down perfectly. It's not going to work. And being adaptable and knowing when things need to just be, you need to go ahead and just let it go and it's going to work out okay. That's a big part of this as well. So we were able to do that, and we were able to talk about Paul and Silas and have a wonderful end to our time there in Anapra. There were lots of hugs from kids and from some of the different parents, and from Rosie, who is the DCE who actually serves the Anapra and Juarez communities. Rosie is a deaconess who has an incredible amount of work that she puts in on both sides of the border between all of the churches in Juarez, as well as serving at Ysleta and also overseeing a whole new group of deaconesses. I think there were 4 or 5 that she was working with. So she loved having us come down. She got a lot of hugs from Rosie.
One of the young girls that was there said, "Could you please come back next Wednesday? And then next Thursday and next Friday." So they really enjoyed having us there as part of their worship.
And then after, we actually had a little bit of a tour that we made around Juarez. We were able to go actually to downtown Juarez to the marketplace, and we were able to tour and see the old cathedral. This cathedral that was actually built in 1531, go into this place of worship that's still in service today, and be able to kind of look around and see just the very split log pews and kneelers, and it was a really neat experience to see the inside of that old cathedral. And then to walk through some of the different marketplaces in Juarez, which, if you've ever been in one of those, you understand when we say it is I think John used the phrase corn maze, and that would probably be the most appropriate phrasing. It is very difficult to make your way around inside some of those, but with that said, there were a lot of cool things that were there. People were able to purchase some beautiful blankets and a few other things that they were able to then bring back, and it was just a fantastic trip all the way around.
So at the end on Friday, we tend to spend quite a bit of time trying to debrief, because it's a different sort of experience for most people. And since we encounter poverty at a different level while we're doing it, there are many feelings that come up within each of us that we'd like to debrief. So we go through a series of questions to try to help us work with that. And so one of the questions we ask is, what surprised you? And everyone has an opportunity to share that. Another question is, what frustrated you? Any number of things can frustrate us, but there really weren't too many, apart from the fact that we didn't have as many children as we thought we would. But another is, where did you see God telling you about himself? And then where has he telling you about yourself? And those are 4 questions that we work with that help us to understand what we've been doing on the mission trip, but particularly when we come back, things that we can share with the people like you.
And one of the most amazing things about it, again, is not only the opportunity to go and to serve others and to share the love of God, but also the community that you go with. We go together as 12 individuals and come back together as one family who has been there spreading the love of God to others, no matter where they may be.
Another thing that really struck us while we were down there is you see how God speaks through his word to give us understanding of what's happening. So when we had the first 2 days and there were no children, it's like there are no fish here. And it came to mind the story of Jesus after his resurrection, when he was in Galilee and the disciples had gone fishing, and Jesus asked if they'd caught anything, and they said no. And he said, let your nets down on the other side of the boat. And it just sort of came through to us, let your nets down on the other side of the border. And that's where the fish were.
It was a wonderful experience for everyone involved. And I know we speak for the group when we say we thank you so much. We cherish your time. We cherish your prayers, all of the support that you've given to us all the way through. Thank you so much. Continue to keep the people of not only Ysleta Lutheran Mission and all of their people in your thoughts and your prayers, but also the people of Juarez, as well as the people of Anapra and Santa Biblia Lutheran Church, as well as Pastor Stephen Heimer, who serves Santa Biblia, and Pastor Carl Heimer, who runs the Ysleta Lutheran Mission. These are all wonderful saints of God. What they do is something that is truly remarkable. They do amazing work, and we are truly blessed to be able to go down and to experience it and to hopefully be a small part of it. So thank you again, and God bless.